Officials in Gaza say at least 19 people have been killed in Israeli airstrikes since last night. This a day after Israel launched its deadliest bombing since a ceasefire began in January. World leaders are keeping up their condemnation of Israel's renewed attacks on Gaza. The EU's foreign policy chief Kaja Kallas says she has told Israel's foreign minister that the situation in Gaza is, quote, unacceptable. Our German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock says the raids are, quote, shattering the tangible hopes on all sides, urging warring parties to show restraint. Hamas says it has not shut the door on talks, but is insisting that there is no need for any new agreement. The group is repeating its demand for Israel to be forced to implement the current ceasefire. It's also accusing Israel of putting the fate of some 59 Israeli hostages in jeopardy. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that Tuesday's attacks that killed more than 400 Palestinians were only the beginning and that fighting will not stop until, quote, vital goals are achieved. The government has, quote, unanimously approved the reappointment of far-right politician Itamar Ben-Gvir as National Security Minister. He had resigned in January in protest at a Gaza ceasefire agreement then. Dozens of Israeli demonstrators arriving in Jerusalem to protest against Mr. Netanyahu's decision to resume hostilities in Gaza. They're urging the Israeli leader to focus on bringing the remaining hostages back home. And more, Giles Gibson joins us live from Tel Aviv. Giles, condemnation from various parties globally, and Hamas saying it is still prepared to return to talks on maintaining the current ceasefire in Gaza. Would this count as momentum to bring Israel back to the negotiating table to maintain that ceasefire in Gaza?
Well, Israel is saying that it is going to undergo talks around the ceasefire, but only under fire in terms of Hamas. And we are seeing over the course of the day more of these strikes inside Gaza. The IDF saying that they carried out strikes on what they called a military target in northern Gaza, as well as several fishing vessels, or vessels as they described them, along the coast of Gaza, saying that they were intended to be used for terror activities. Palestinian officials dismissing that and saying that they were simply fishing boats. We've also heard from the health ministry in Gaza saying that one foreign national has been killed and 4 more wounded in a strike on a UN facility in the center of Gaza. We're still waiting for confirmation about that from the United Nations itself, but that will certainly add to this sense of widespread international condemnation of these airstrikes from the UN itself, as well as regional countries such as Saudi Arabia and Qatar. Here in Israel, really, there is a bit of a split in terms of how people are reacting to these fresh strikes inside Gaza. There is real applause in terms of the far right of Israeli politics, as you were mentioning. These strikes have led to Itamar Ben-Gvir, the far right politician, rejoining the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's cabinet, rejoining the coalition after he decided to leave it because of disagreements over the ceasefire agreement with Hamas. But at the same time, we're also seeing these protests breaking out. Last night, we had very large protests here in Tel Aviv, and now we are seeing a crowd of demonstrators in Jerusalem walking from the Israeli parliament, the Knesset, to the Israeli Prime Minister's private residence in the city to show their anger and their frustration around these new strikes, and also protesting about the government's plans to dismiss the head of the internal security service known as Shin Bet.
Well, thanks, Giles Gibson, looking at potentially conflicting pressures on Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. That's Giles Gibson live from Tel Aviv. Singapore's government has spoken about the recent flare-up of violence in Gaza, calling as well for the resumption of truce negotiations. You can get the full story on our website, cna.asia.